Hello, everybody. Welcome to another week of Beyond Parody Podcast. I'm your host, Dan Dillon, the CEO and co-founder of Not the Bee. I am joined by Robin Garfield, the host of the Top 3 from Not the Bee.
Hi, everybody.
We are also joined by our editor-in-chief, Joel Abbott.
Hello.
And our tech guru, Mr. B.
Cheers, my friends.
So just jumping right into the crazy news of the week, we just have breaking news, hot off the presses. The Prime Minister, the British Prime Minister, has just announced that the UK will ban ninja swords to stop the stabbing epidemic.
What?
It's great.
Confirmed, he says. Here, I'll share the, I will present this real quick. So here's the article that we've published on Not the Bee. The British Prime Minister has bragged that he will ban ninja swords. So his tweet simply says, confirmed, ninja swords will be banned by this summer. When we promise action, we take it.
Ninja swords. You know, the only thing that stops a bad guy with a ninja sword is a good guy with a ninja sword. So
absolutely. This really, to me, I'm questioning the definition here. Are we talking about samurai swords? Can you still have a samurai sword? I mean, how do you define ninja? What's a ninja?
There's a lot of Asian and specifically Japanese swords. So I'm intrigued to see and is it a plastic sword, a real steel sword, or a replica? I need more specifics here, guys.
Joel, I hear you are a nice guy with a ninja sword. Can you show us?
Well, actually, it's a medieval European sword. Technically, it's from Lord of the Rings. So I don't know if this would be banned. Is this allowed?
Absolutely. They
still wield this.
He said in his tweet, it's ninja swords.
Specifically.
Very specifically. Pacifically.
Pacifically. That's a Utahism, Pacifically. I think that's right. I think that's a Western thing.
Ninja swords don't kill people. People kill people, right? I mean, right. Come on. What's going on here? Are they going to ban knives, forks? And the other thing I heard, is it the UK or is it Germany? I don't remember, where you can now get arrested in your home if you live within 200 feet of an abortion clinic and you pray in your home. Isn't that something that's happening?
I keep hearing these crazy things.
It's in the UK. If you're praying within your home and it can be audibly heard outside the home and you're within a zone that's close to an abortion clinic, you could theoretically be prosecuted under the law. I will say...
Imagine if you were praying in your home holding a ninja sword, what would happen?
Instant death. In the Netherlands, just a few minutes ago, there were multiple people who were stabbed in Amsterdam. So maybe they need to, I don't know, they need to look into banning ninja swords. I think that would probably do it. That's the problem right there.
Has there ever been a recorded ninja sword attack in the UK? Actually, in the UK, probably there has been, but I can't imagine there's that many, right? Can you, Joel, in the background, look that up while we're moving on?
I wonder because this news is so fresh. I haven't had a ton of time to dig into it. What sparked Starmer making this declaration? Has this been an issue? Is this a problem? And I'm going to say it, and nobody wants to talk about it, but maybe it's a cultural issue and not an issue with the ninja swords. Maybe like you said, swords don't kill people. People kill people, and now we have stabbings in the Netherlands, and it's awful and tragic, but there seems to be maybe a cultural aspect to this that we should address and not just keep banning things. We're going to ban kitchen knives next, butter knives, spoons. Maybe we won't be able to shoot people a smile anymore.
Sporks.
Terrible.
Ooh,
that's terrible.
Nice, Robin.
It's just terrible.
Sporks. Sporks are on the line. They can't quite figure that one out. Yeah. All right, so the next story that has taken over Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it this week is everything has been turned into anime. And it's actually really, for some reason, refreshing to have something going on that's kind of gone viral, that's not depressing.
It's studio, so wholesome.
I'll let you say the style, Robin, since you know how to pronounce it properly.
Well, now I'm a reader. I've always said Studio Ghibli, but now people are going to get on and say it's Ghibli. So I'm going to say it's Miyazaki's Studio Ghibli, and it's if you know his animation style, he's done Spirited Away, Ponyo, Totoro, which is my 2-year-old's favorite movie in the world. Some of the most beautiful aesthetic animation I think that has ever
I actually
been
really
made.
like it too. There's something calming about the simplicity of it, about how even the voice work like doesn't have to perfectly match how the mouth moves. It just needs to open and close, and like it's minimalistic but also clean. I like it a lot. So here's Bush hearing about 9/11. Sir, everything has become anime. It's crazy that the bigger story here is what has just recently happened with these AI chatbots. So this is happening on Grok. It's happening on ChatGPT from OpenAI and Google Gemini. So they didn't used to let you do this, but they are now letting you upload your own images and edit them. So that's why everybody is doing this. So you upload an image and you just say, edit this image into Studio Ghibli style or Ghibli or whatever it is. And it will just pop out this beautiful image that's like, it actually captures the essence of the characters perfectly. I mean, look at this, the fight. I mean, look at the Secret Service agents. They look like the people that they're supposed to be. It really captures the essence of everything so good. Here's the Kramer meme. I mean, it's like, it's unbelievable. Oh my
I love
God.
this one's my favorite. The Merkel and Trump looks just
looks just like Merkel. I mean, it's like
so great, but it also looks in the aesthetic of Miyazaki. It's wonderful.
There are many wives who will not get the next one.
Oh, I get that one. I love that. That meme I love because it's very endearing.
Men, feel free to explain that one to your wives.
JD Vance. Oh my gosh, look at these two.
Yeah,
so good.
So,
if you're at home and you're listening only and not looking at audio, these are just very iconic. So this is the couple in
the St. Louis couple
with the guns,
the BLM protesters,
trying to keep people off of their front lawn.
We got Nixon, we got Hillary Clinton
walking into the kitchen, an average kitchen,
Spirited Away. Stalin.
Yeah, Joseph Stalin with the
Hunter
revision.
Biden in the bathtub.
Unbothered, moisturized.
AOC crying at what's that? Pepe the Frog.
Pepe the Frog on the other side of the fence.
Oh, there's Hitler Elon.
Elon Musk. I'm surprised it actually agreed to draw that one.
I think he thinks it's funny.
So all the memes, everything like that is all being put into this Studio Ghibli format. But it goes to a bigger conversation, which is just how powerful AI is becoming now. I mean, it's like it seems like every week or so we have a new development with these chatbots that makes things, so much easier to do. Somebody recreated the entire Lord of the Rings trailer using this technology, and it's consistent. And it's like it's a broader, deeper discussion, but it's just like every time something like this happens, I'm like, man, there's a lot of people who are going to lose jobs over this. Like, legitimately, there's a lot of people who are going to lose jobs. It's now that it can consistently create frames where the characters look the same between frames, and you can create video from it in the matter of minutes instead of, the budget to create an actual animated trailer for Lord of the Rings. If you were to hand draw it or use computers and actually manually draw it, it would take you weeks, and you'd have 8 or 9 different artists working on it. Tons of meetings, all this other stuff. And now some guy put this trailer together, and it looks really great.
Yeah,
and it only cost him $250 to do it. So he created a shot-for-shot remake of the original Fellowship of the Rings movie trailer. And it only cost him $250. And you're looking at it, you're like, okay, it's not quite to the quality that you might see out of a professional animation studio, but it's close. Particularly,
good.
I've seen the actual Hobbit animated series, so I've seen some pretty bad animation.
Well, right, yeah, and a lot of these movies now, a lot of these studios, they'll have like the Lord of the Rings, the actual animated Lord of the Rings movie that came out in December. Part of the problem was it was like over a dozen animation studios that were working on the project, which means that everything felt a little bit clunky. Everybody had a different thing to work on. It wasn't streamlined. People complained about it. You could just have an AI do that. So there are some implications. It's going to be interesting. I think I'm personally interested in how that changes Hollywood's gatekeeping. If the average person could create a faithful adaptation of Star Wars or Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter or whatever, then these woke Hollywood types that have the money that keep getting hired and ruin everything Does that change the equation? Are they just going to become more powerful in the long run because they don't actually have to hire people?
Well, it always
I don't know.
and their gatekeeping always used to depend on distribution as well, because you had to follow certain rules to be part of the right association so that you could get your films into actual theaters. But now nobody cares about theaters. So distribution being online, you can reach more people just posting something on X than you can releasing it in a theater.
How good is it going to be 5 years from now?
Well, that's the thing.
And what are those implications?
It costs $240 for that guy to make that, but he had to spend 9 hours editing it, and it's a brand new technology. 5 years from now, all you'll have to do is just give it a prompt to do that.
Hit a button.
And it will be done in 15 seconds, and it will cost you 15 cents.
AI is so good, and I don't even think that we have fully... Even what we have access to right now, I don't think we have fully figured out. This week I was writing a script over for the Bee, and I just kind of jotted it down almost like in a rough draft, not in script form. Typed it into ChatGPT, or I think it was Grok. I said, put this in script form. Just please put this in. 2 seconds, and it punched up my script.
It's good at doing stuff like that.
crazy.
It's not great yet. I've tried a couple of times, because I don't know how many of you guys know. Actually, you can see it right here. I am an artist, a musician. I've got an album coming out in May, and it's the thing about this album is I recorded it about 2 years ago. It's like the last album I wrote before AI. Like, there's no AI assistance on this album at all. But now it's like you can go in and create really awesome synth tracks and drum tracks and things like that using AI. And it's going to be pervasive in music. But one thing it can't do so far, which is interesting because it can do so many other things so powerfully, is it can't write lyrics or good dialogue. It doesn't understand that for some reason. Like, it can't quite make anything sound human. I've tried, like with my kids, I've been writing on Suno, the little Suno app, really funny pop songs. They love them. I've got one, it's called Godzilla in a Tiny Sweater. And it's like this, it made a picture of Godzilla wearing a tiny sweater. And it's just this silly pop song that my kids absolutely love. But the lyrics are so stupid, and so simplistic that's really the only application you can use its like creativity for. I know it's just a matter of time, right? Eventually it will be able to do that.
Circling back like Jen Psaki here, just to let you know, there was a sword attack. I looked it up in 2024. There was a Spanish national who drove his van into a house and then went on a rampage he's a self-described mystic who likes to dress up as Robin Hood in period dress. So I guess the answer
that could have been a medieval sword, and they didn't ban that.
Yeah, I don't know.
It
I
was
think
specific to ninjas.
Yeah, I guess it was. I mean, it was a sword. I don't know exactly what type of sword it was.
Well, regardless, I find it hard to believe that there's an epidemic of ninja sword attacks, even if you include medieval swords and samurai swords in the mix.
I think maybe they should just ban drug-using Renaissance fair people from owning ninja swords.
You got to society's got to solve the problem of violent people. That's what society's got to solve.
I wonder if we have any pictures of anyone on this podcast that's dressed up in medieval garb holding a sword. Do we have anything like that we could?
I don't know. That might be embarrassing.
No, no, I own it. I own it fully. I had a nerd phase.
We do.
I'm still in my nerd phase. I've never left my. I'm not. When I say nerd, though, nowadays nerd has been taken to such a different level. Back in my day, nerd just meant you had a sword. Now, nerd means you have to know everything about every D&D character going back 400 years.
So the viewers at home, we are now showing a picture of said nerd Robin holding a sword.
So
it's a wonderful thing. So
this is a Scottish claymore that I bought at a gun show in Utah in the 1990s. It's an antique claymore. And I had a Renaissance. My mom made me a Renaissance dress associated with nothing other than I really wanted one. And my mom was a fantastic seamstress. So she spent like a week and made me this beautiful dress. And when I was at BYU, I used to put on my Renaissance dress and take my Scottish claymore and get all dressed up and go out with friends. I don't know. That's was a thing we did. It was a lot of fun.
What are you looking at in this picture so seriously?
I'm standing on my brother's deck and looking at his grapes. That's that's what this is about. But Yeah, I actually own quite a few swords, and I have yet to commit an act of violence with them. I have collected a few over the years. I have small daggers and daggers. I was going to say scabbards, daggers and claymores and broadswords, and they're fun to play with. During COVID, my kids remember that we took fruit out in the backyard, and I let them play real life Fruit Ninja with some of my swords, and I would throw fruit at them, and they would hack fruit in the backyard.
Okay, cue video. No, we don't have that.
No, we don't.
No.
So the biggest story of the week, not quite as fun as all the AI chat, is the other chat that happened on Signal. The chat heard around the world. The chat seen around the world. So, Joel, what the heck happened here?
There's still a little bit of a gray area about it in terms of what happened. Somehow, the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic, I mean, think about all of the various editors-in-chiefs out there. Yeah. All the people that could have gotten access to this. Signal is a secure communications app. Some people have said it's not secure enough. There could potentially be backdoors, leaks, things like that don't make it good for government communication. So there's some legitimate criticisms here for why members of Trump's cabinet and national security team would even be communicating anything on this, let alone some of the ideas for an attack on the Houthi militants in Yemen. But I don't know exactly what happened, but somehow this editor-in-chief got invited into this Signal group, and he joined it. And there were 18 people in the group. Let me pull up the story here, and I could actually find some of the names of these individuals. But it basically just sat there for a couple of different weeks.
13 days.
It was 13 days. Yeah, a couple weeks, 2 weeks or so. And just watched like a fly on the wall, just waiting, listening, seeing what they were talking about, and then got some inside baseball in terms of what was happening with the Houthis in Yemen.
And I mean, if that happened to me, the first thing I would do is call the FBI and say, hey, I wouldn't sit there and watch and then present it to the world.
There is a question that when you're going through, like for a top secret security clearance, which I actually have had in the past, there's all of these different rules for what happens if you happen upon some sort of confidential information that that you're not supposed to see or that you're not supposed to have heard, and how you're supposed to report it and all this other stuff. Is there not any generic rule for the public in that regard?
So as someone who's worked heavily in journalism, and I've been on a lot of top level text threads with government officials, here's exactly what I would do if that happened to me. I get added to this thread. I call my lawyer. I ask him if it's illegal for me to be on there. If he says no, I don't say a word, and I'm the fly on the wall. I do exactly what Goldberg did, because you have access to information. If you have no legal obligation to speak up, and it's only a moral obligation, I would keep my mouth shut and see what I could see, and I would keep an open line of communication with a lawyer to make sure I wasn't. Because if the roles were reversed, if this was Biden and it was a Fox News or a Daily Wire correspondent who was put on one of those threads, they would probably, if there were no legal implications, they would keep their mouth shut and watch what was happening. This is a giant L for the Trump administration. I think they should take the L square on the chin. I've seen a lot of trying to spin it. And someone on Twitter was like, no, this just proves that Trump is the most transparent administration of our time. I'm like, no. This was a mistake.
It was definitely a mistake.
It was bad.
The optics are really bad. It is really bad. I try to be somebody who approaches, failures on the left and failures on the right the same, and can criticize, both sides. And it definitely is one of those things where if this happened under a Kamala Harris administration, the right would be going nuts, right? And saying, oh, everybody on that chat should resign, in disgrace, which is what they're saying about, Hegseth and everybody else on that chat. And I don't think it's a failure to the point that people should be resigning in disgrace. It's definitely nothing like the Afghanistan withdrawal, right? Like it's nowhere near that. People
or Hillary's server, Hillary's email server, any of those things.
Right. So anytime that anything bad happens with the Trump administration, it's going to get blown out of proportion. But the problem here isn't what actually got disclosed to this journalist. The problem is, A, how did the journalist get access to the chat? And B, what if it was worse? What if it was actually something that people's. It's not that people's lives weren't at stake here. This is talking about an attack. It is talking about something where there's going to be military action taken. But imagine if it was way worse than this, and if it happened here, it could happen again. And I think that just goes to show you that, like, people that are in the government are just people. They are going to go and use the most convenient methods of communication, whether they're Republican or Democrat, which is stupid. And it's really hard for me to believe, like, when you grow up, you have this idea that the government is kind of all powerful and all knowing, and these are the smart people, and these are the people in charge, and all this other stuff. And then you find out they're just a bunch of bumbling idiots like all the rest of us, and doing stupid things, adding people to chats accidentally. And it just seems like to me that the government should have a little bit more control over their communications. But it's tough. Apparently, Elon has said that the internal communications systems that they have are really, really bad. So nobody wants to use them.
Yeah, I read that. That they could, when you have, and I understand coming into an administration like this, where the DOJ was historically, I'm going to say it, very leftist, and there's not a lot of trust amongst the Republican Party with the DOJ right now. Even though we're trying to clean house, there's still a lot of people in there that have a lot of reason to make Trump look bad. And so using communication devices overseen by the DOJ, where all these DOJ employees have access to your communications, I understand the desire to have a separate signal channel or something where it's just you guys. But if you're going to do it, you got to do it right, guys.
Well, I think it's just a security risk in general. If you are allowing people to message on devices that can be screenshotted or taken pictures of, it's just a matter of what do you do? You can't. I mean, you could potentially, I guess, make a phone that can't take screenshots. Well, then you can just use another phone to take a picture of that phone, right?
Right.
So it's like, what do you do? Like, the way that we communicate these days, instead of it being word of mouth, like direct through secure communications channels that aren't stored anywhere. And even so, even if you make a phone call, you never know if anybody's eavesdropping. So it's, it's difficult. Like, what is the correct solution for communications like this?
Do we think that it's possible that this was intentional and not an accident? That the staffer did it intentionally? I mean, there's a chance for that.
You mean that he was, that the Atlantic guy was added intentionally?
Yeah.
I mean, you could theorize. So the person,
but they know who added. You're talking about who added him.
Michael Waltz, who is the national security advisor. He added everybody to the group. But the question would be, was he the one actually putting this together? Did he hand it off to somebody and say, hey, can you coordinate this? I need this group. Can you add these people to this chat for me? And then there was some lower level staffer. I mean, he was out there trying to spin it, like you were saying, Robin, trying to spin it, trying to play this off. And it's like, well, it says right there that you specifically added this journalist to the group.
Right.
So it's kind of hard to say that you had nothing to do with it. But there is always that question in the back of your head when you consider Trump's first term. Are there these lower level staffers that would take advantage of a situation like this to leak things to the press?
Well, what are the odds that it was that guy that was added? That's what makes me think.
He'd had communications. He said in a statement that he'd had communications with Michael Waltz in the past. Somehow I know exactly. I mean, I've done this before. I have definitely sent messages to people unintentionally and added people to text threads. My sister and a very distant associate of mine have almost the identical name, one letter off. And I have put this random distant associate on family text threads probably 10 times. It happens.
It's just there should be a system for the government that isn't reliant upon a third party like Signal, but replicates the functionality of the Signal app or something like that, where in order to be in the chats, you have to have certain security clearances. And when you create a chat room, it's for people of a certain security clearance and higher only. And you just can't have accidents like that. But if you did it, the problem is, are people actually going to use it? I don't know. I mean, that's the thing, is how do you enforce that? Because people are going to want to just use their own personal devices and just have access to it and stuff like that.
And when it comes to the government, I don't know if you guys have read about the payment system right now. I mean, this is the same thing as the communication system. Elon was talking about that there are 13, or I think it was maybe even President Trump, 13 to 15 different payment process systems within the federal government, and the amount of inefficiencies and the clunkiness of these systems. And they're trying to
they end up using Venmo.
Right. And these systems can be easily corrupted. And so we're doing a lot of digging right now and a lot of cleaning up. But this
now talk about being transparent, though. If you do it on Venmo, then everybody can see.
I keep my transactions private. I don't know why on earth people want their.
That's one of the weirdest things, is that Venmo tried to make it social for some reason, and they make you add a comment. I hate that.
Isn't the Social Security system on MS-DOS for the United States of America?
Sounds right. Sounds about right. I don't know.
Probably.
C++.
I mean, our systems are so antiquated that there's what is it in Pennsylvania for retiring? They can't actually digitize the records of federal employees. So they're in a bunker under the ground. And I think it's Pennsylvania. We did a story on it a few weeks back where they have a limit on how many people they can get rid of. They can retire or fire in a given month. That's based on how many files they can physically bring up from the basement up the elevator to process in a given month. And it's a system that basically has been around for over a century, and we just can't digitize it because the U.S. government is so inefficient. I mean, there's a lot of things that have to be looked at. When I look at this story, I go, okay, this is an L, take it. But I don't really think it's going to spread. I think that you're going to have the far left types. They're going to see this as a W. They'll raise a little bit of money off of it. But on the right side of the aisle, people are memeing it. I mean, and people they're kind of like, hey, we're going to troll you guys for this was dumb. Don't do it again. But they're poking fun in a way that's not malevolent or super angry. So I kind of see this story fizzling out and not going anywhere.
Out. Nobody's going to get impeached. Nobody's going to get fired.
Or resign.
But it is just kind of eyebrow raising, I guess.
Elizabeth Warren is yelling. So nothing new.
A much bigger story this week is our audio clip of the week. And it's what AOC said. I don't know where she was. She was fight oligarchy.
She was at a Bernie rally.
She was at a Bernie
rally. Fight the oligarchy.
Yep. He's on a nationwide tour right now.
All right, so I'm gonna present this real quick so we can all listen to the beauty of this. Oh my gosh, it's great. Share. Boop. Now I gotta add it to stage. All right, so here's AOC. Listen to what she says. I'll give it one listen real quick, and you guys see if you can pick out what she says, and then we'll play it again after we tell you.
We need a Democratic Party that fights harder for us. We need a Democratic Party that fights harder for us.
We need a Democratic Party that farts harder for us.
I think they're already doing that right now.
Let's listen again, one more time. I love this.
Democratic Party that fights harder for us.
She legitimately said fart. She said fart.
She finished the word. I heard it.
It's so bad. I have a teenage boy sense of humor. I have teenage sons, but I never quite grew out of like 16-year-old teenage boy humor, and that made me giggle really hard. And if I were her, I would swing into it and laugh at myself.
The thing is, this is not the first time a Democrat has done this. Hakeem Jeffries, earlier this year, on January 3rd, we reported that Hakeem Jeffries said, "We will fart hard for the freedom to vote." There's got to be something about fight hard when you're saying it quickly. Maybe they just need to nix that. Don't say it. Because
say it five times fast.
No, I'm not going to do it. No.
I don't know. I think the farting cows are living rent-free in AOC's head, personally.
Oh, the methane. They came out with a study that said that's not, I thought I saw something that said that it's not the cows. We can
It's never been the cows. It's just an excuse to get rid of my beef.
All right. So now I'm going to share the screen for one more thing. This is really crazy for another failure of the week. So AOC's dialogue is a failure, but here is another failure of the week, and that is the performance of Snow White, which now has a very unique distinction for failure, and that is that it has accumulated the worst rating right here, if you can see it, 1.6 out of 10 stars on IMDb. It is the lowest rated film in the history of IMDb. Which
so
is
excited to
historic.
See it.
Amazing. I love this. The Poison Apple won. This is wonderful. It could just be obviously review bombing by a bunch of trolls. I don't know. I didn't see the movie. I will refuse to. My girls are actually mildly interested in watching it, and I talked them out of it. And I don't think it's probably a 1.6 out of 10 star movie when you look at it. It's like, it's probably got decent production quality and things like that. I don't know. But still, it's amazing to see it. And this Rachel Zegler, oh, she's just the worst. Every day it seems they go back and find new tweets. Rachel Zegler, she's just the worst. They go back and they find different tweets from her all the time saying, F Trump, F his supporters. I hope they never know peace, right? That's what she said.
Makes me want to watch her movie.
Perfect. Oh, man. She is the biggest PR disaster in history. I'm surprised that Disney didn't put her under some sort of social media gag order or something like that.
They probably had her sign something and she just didn't care.
Right. And now the producer... was it the producer or the director's son came out and basically said, she's
son
ruined.
Of the producer. Oh, he was scathing. Mm-hmm. I could bring that up if you want it, but it was pretty bad where he was talking about how she was essentially narcissistic. It was his father's job to try to keep her in line. And she just kept going off and saying all these horrible political things that were very incendiary and hateful to half of the audience. And that affects tens of thousands of people who are blue collar workers on a film like this.
One word, entitled.
They could have just fired her. I mean, they fired Gina Carano for a lame reason. Way less for a lame reason.
Here,
for something on the right side of the aisle.
I think this was on Instagram. I'm adding his response. But
yeah, that's it.
I don't know who he was speaking to, Brindy13, but he said, you really want to do this? Yeah, my dad, the producer of an enormous piece of Disney IP with hundreds of millions of dollars on the line, had to leave his family to fly across the country to reprimand his 20-year-old employee for dragging her personal politics into the middle of promoting the movie for which she signed a multi-million-dollar contract to get paid and do publicity for. This is called adult responsibility and accountability, and her actions clearly hurt the film's box office. Free speech does not mean you're allowed to say whatever you want in your private employment without repercussions. Tens of thousands of people worked on that film, and she hijacked the conversation for her own immature desires at the risk of all the colleagues and crew and blue-collar workers who depend on that movie to be successable. Narcissism is not something to be coddled or encouraged.
All right, I'm gonna jump in here though. Here's the thing: I haven't seen the movie, but I have watched a ton of reviews, more reviews this week than
it's fun watching it.
I want to hate watch the movie. They are using Rachel Zegler as a scapegoat.
For
push
a bad movie.
All of her controversy aside, the movie was a dumpster fire.
I do want to imagine a world.
The plot was thin. The acting was terrible. The direction was terrible. The sets are cheap. The CGI is ridiculous. They took real dwarves and replaced them with these CGI monstrosities. They're using her, and what she did, and she's 20 years old. She's 20 years old. She's a dimwit. Whatever. What she said was dumb. But the movie itself was a piece of garbage. It was a piece of garbage. And had she said nothing, the movie would have still flopped.
Yes,
it wouldn't have flopped as bad.
No, it wouldn't have flopped as bad. Now, here's the thing. What do you guys think about? So IMDb is owned by Amazon. Sometimes the ratings on there, I never know how to take it because sometimes initially you'll get more trolls. Rotten Tomatoes gatekeeps a little bit more when it comes to comments. And it's interesting because this is breaking the normal rule. Normally you have a super cringe, horrible movie with a woke lead star, and you'll have amazing reviews from the quote unquote experts and a really bad audience score. And that's how you know that it's actually a bad movie, if the experts like it, but the audience didn't. Here, it only has a 42% among the experts, and it has a 74 from the audience. So I find that interesting.
They lost the goodwill of even the left, which is the media that reviews movies is all left-leaning, and they even lost the goodwill of the left, which is crazy. It's really crazy that they could do that. And typically they overcompensate. So they all get probably on a signal chat and they say, hey, what can we do to fight the right-wing, uproar over this movie in order to make people actually go and see this? Oh, let's all give it a 10 out of 10 review. And they would typically do stuff like that because they do stick together, and they didn't in this case. They actually abandoned. Now, 42% I think is better than it should be, though. I think there was a little bit of that. I think that's why it's even at 42%, because you see pretty good movies a lot of times in the 30% range and 25% range on those things. So, it's still being manipulated even at 42%, in my personal opinion.
I think it was a doomed concept to begin with. If you're going to remake Snow White, you have to be respectful of the original story, and you can't make the prince a goofy afterthought who doesn't even really have much of a part in the movie, from what I can see. We had a movie like Moana. I don't even know. He's wearing Prince.
He's like an Antifa activist or something. He's like a liberal arts degree guy at Columbia University.
He's just there. But we had Moana, which is not a love story at all. But it is one of the most. I love Moana with all of my heart. That movie has a really special place in my heart. It's one of the most beautiful movies I think to come out in the last 20 years. There's no love
Moana
story.
2 is terrible.
Moana 2. I watched it last week. I told my husband it looked like they typed in "make Moana 2" into ChatGPT and whatever just spit out. It was so bad. It was painfully bad.
My kids like it. I think it's okay. No. It's not.
It's so depressing though. Like how they manipulate everything is so depressing. It's like Moana. She's a strong girl boss or whatever, and then it's like they wanted to have a kid character in the movie, but they can't make it her kid, right? Because then she would be tied down.
It's her little sister.
And so it has to be her little sister. And it's like, it doesn't even make any sense. She's like 20 something years old or whatever she is. I don't know. And all of a sudden she has a little sister.
Which means that her mom
can't
had
even
a baby.
write in these fantasies, they can't even write into a narrative a woman having a child. No. Like it can't be a part of a strong female character anymore. I hate that. Anyway,
then she rescues she rescues the god Maui like multiple times. And then she becomes a demigod herself and achieves godhood as a female.
The girl boss narrative, and that's what I've learned from the Snow White thing, is that the girl boss narrative that they've been pushing on us is failing now. That nobody wants it anymore.
No,
there's nothing wrong with them trying to create movies that have female leads. There's nothing wrong with it. The problem is the nature of a strong female, what we've known for thousands of years of human history, is not what they're portraying in these movies. A strong female is not somebody who goes and for some reason can physically fight men and beat them and overcome physical challenges that other men can't figure out and mental challenges that men get stumped by. The strong female lead is different. The strong female lead could be even a movie like Erin Brockovich, right? I mean, like that's a great female lead. That's a girl boss movie that's not offensive, right?
And she's a mom.
Yeah, and she's a mom and she's a great character.
I mean, Terminator 2.
Terminator 2 that's a little bit girl bossy.
That's a little bit girl bossy. But it's not girl bossy. That's why I love that movie so much.
These things actually have real world implications. I mean, there's a debate right now going on where there's a Pennsylvania Democrat, and she said she's trying to fight to keep trans athletes in sports. And her quote was that female bodies are just as strong, fast, and capable as male bodies, unquote. That is a delusion. But like, we're not saying that women aren't strong. We aren't saying that there isn't something. I mean, the Bible says that, a woman is the glory of her husband, that there's differences. There are things that men cannot be, and there are things that women cannot be. There are differences. So when it comes to just cardiovascular, your cardiovascular system, your muscle mass, things like that. If a generation of girls are told that you can have Moana go out there and she can be just as strong as the insanely buff Maui played by The Rock, and she can do all the same physical feats and all the rest of it, she can essentially become a man. You lose the femininity, and then you end up getting these Democrats that are sitting in Congress that believe that that's true. And then they go, it should be equal. Let's get rid of women's sports and let men play in them.
Well, it's actually misogynistic. The feminist movement is actually misogynistic. It glorifies only those traits which are masculine. And that's what I don't understand about modern feminism. Like more than anything else, there's a difference between men and women. The femininity is equally valid and wonderful as masculinity. And for some reason, feminists supposedly, they only can look at traits: being fast, being strong, being a leader, being
independent
than everybody, being independent. These are all masculine traits. Those are the only traits that they want represented in their characters and media. Those are the only traits that they actually aspire to. So they're not actually feminists. They're misogynists.
Right. Well, and
what's the last mom? I'm trying to think The Incredibles. I'm trying to think of a mom in
Disney
a Disney movie.
Disney has not historically been kind to mothers. Name a fairy tale where there's a mom. Sleeping Beauty, the mom dies. Snow White,
Tangled, the mom is stepmom is super evil. Stepmoms are wicked witches. Those are always.
But even those old ones, though, they're showing you the absence of motherhood.
Right.
They are showing you the absence of motherhood and what kind of a broken home it creates. So that it is in its own way kind of pointing towards the fact that you need moms in the picture, at the very least, even if it's not representing them well on screen.
Simba has a mother in Lion King. There you go.
And she's a great character. Yeah.
What's her name?
I don't know.
I can hear Scar.
I'm just trying to think back. I'm like, okay, Little Mermaid. No, mom is dead.
No,
okay,
there's no mom. They didn't even address the mom in Little Mermaid. I think they just say something.
Like Finding Nemo, they don't address the mom either, right?
No, they say something about the mom dying.
She dies protecting. Trying to protect the eggs when the barracuda comes.
But all these stories of broken characters on a redemption arc, it's the same thing every time. The mother's not around, or the father's not around, or both. So it does point towards truth, I guess, even if they don't want to represent it.
Well, and back to Joel's comment on feminism, which I agree with. If you look at feminist studies as a whole, I agree very much with first, second, and a little bit of mostly third wave feminism, which is women have the right to vote. It should be illegal to beat your wife. It should be illegal to rape your wife. These are strides that feminists made during the early 19th century. We had women's suffrage. I always say 19th century, but that was the early
20th century.
20th century.
Thank you. The early 20th century. Girl math here. Which I think is I think we made some really important, even with the sexual harassment lawsuits in the early 90s, and some cultural things. I am that feminist. I am a big proponent of the women that came before me that made a lot of sacrifices. But now we have this fifth wave feminism that says not only are women the same as men, women are better than men and don't need men. And This is anti-biological. This is, I am a married woman with 5 children. I am also an employee. I've been a journalist for large periods of my life. And there is a strength in motherhood that we cannot lose as a society that is different than a male strength. And we talked about this a little bit last week. And we need more stories that highlight. A friend of mine, even at church last week, we were talking, and she said it's getting to the point where at church, it's hard to say, I celebrate motherhood. And then everybody has to jump up and say, well, it's okay for women to work, and it's okay for women to be single, and it's okay for women not to have kids. And it's okay. Yeah, it's okay. Of course, it's okay. It's okay. But it is still okay to be a mom. And it's still okay to have children and be strong as a woman and have children. And we have these stories now that are writing out mothers and writing out, like Dan was saying about Moana 2, which is funny that we're extrapolating deep conversations off of Moana 2. But I agree, when I saw the little sister thing, I was like, why can't Moana just have a daughter? Why does it make her weaker? What does it make
it's because it would show that she is with, a man and has to be tied down, and she needs to be free. And it's it just isn't, it's subliminal, subconscious.
I mean,
programming.
It was really on the nose in the new Snow White, because they replaced the, what is it? One Day My Prince Will Come. They replaced that song, and they had a song where she literally sings, quote, "Will she lead or just be led?" And she's talking about becoming the ruler that she knows that she needs to be. She's going to be this amazing queen. She's going to exhibit all these masculine. She's actually dancing in a room that's full of, medieval armor and a very masculine place. And she's asking, do I have the strength to lead? And it's like, how is that better? When I look at Snow White, I understand that there's some conversations about, waiting for a man, waiting for my prince, but there is an element of the maternal, of femininity in the original Snow White. You can critique that one if you want. You can critique all these characters, but yes, there is a magic, there is a superpower in femininity, and Disney and these other outfits, they're just erasing that, and they're creating females that are actually just males. And I don't know. Yeah. I don't know what my daughters, who they're going to actually look up to in film.
Just have them watch the old ones.
Yeah, we just watch the old stuff. That's what we do.
So, just to touch on a couple other stories real quick before we move on to
Snow White is the only thing.
That's it,
important.
Guys. Let's talk about something else for a second. And speaking of people kind of going with the flow on these things, we had some right-wing accounts that you don't typically associate with just kind of going with the flow, all band together this week and shill for soda. I'm going to call it soda companies, not pop.
It's pop.
It's not pop.
Only say soda pop.
Oh, that's so annoying.
Adam Ford and I are agreed. It's pop.
Doesn't matter if you agree with that part. It's still wrong. But anyway, not to go into a harsh criticism of pop versus soda, but to look at these big name influencers. So you see this, for those at home, there are a bunch of big name accounts that some of them are anonymous accounts, some of them aren't on Twitter. Clown World has got 2 million followers. Eric Doherty's got, 1.2 million followers. Not Jerome Powell, which is a parody account. It's a parody account. And they actually were paid by lobbyists for the soda industry to write positive messaging about SNAP benefits and soda purchases. So they wanted people to say, they wanted the right wingers to all get mad about the fact that we were restricting soda purchases on SNAP benefits. And so they had them follow a pretty close script. Up on screen, you can see they're all kind of saying almost the exact same thing about how this is government overreach. You should allow people to purchase whatever they want with their SNAP benefits and all this other stuff. And it's pretty crazy because I've never actually seen right-wing accounts do something like this. This is so cringe and such a leftist type of a thing.
How much do we think they got paid? I'm just curious. How much would I need to get paid to show for the soda companies?
A soda company, A, their lobbying groups have tons of money. And B, these are really big accounts. I mean, Clown World is one of the largest, most shared, most followed accounts on Twitter. So I would imagine somewhere in the range of $10,000. I don't know. Somewhere in that range.
Was so. What is it? Influenceable was the name of the company. They work with lobbyist groups, so they're kind of the go-between, the marketing go-between. They work with these lobbyists who are receiving money from, say, Big Soda. I'll say soda. And in this case, apparently, Influenceable was paying social media accounts $1,000 per post if they were in this tier of engagement. I mean, you think about some of these big accounts on X, they're getting hundreds of thousands of impressions or millions of impressions on a regular basis for multiple posts every single day.
Right.
So if they come out and $1,000 is not that. So who knows how many posts they make like this, but if they make 2 or 3 of them, okay, that's 3 posts, that's $3,000 in their pocket.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how many posts they were supposed to make, but I would imagine really big accounts can make somewhere between $5,000 and $10,000 off of a campaign like this. But the reason that people follow the right wing accounts, I don't know about the left wing accounts. I don't know why anybody follows them. They're so annoying. But the right wing accounts, at least people think a lot of these people are independent journalist types. Like this Eric Doherty guy, he says, "Yeah, that was dumb of me. Massive egg on my face. In all seriousness, it won't happen again." But
he got the paycheck. Did he give the money back?
Yeah, I don't think so. And the whole reason people follow him, I follow him too. He does a lot of breaking news, and you think, or at least I thought, that it's not manipulated in any way. And I would hope that people realize that about Not the Bee, and they realize it about the Babylon Bee, despite what Candace Owens says about us. We are not funded by Jewish conspiracies or anything like that. It's like
I'm wearing my Jew hat underneath
publish
this
the
hat
things
right here.
that need to be published. Nobody's going to pay us, man. If a soda company came to us and said, "We want to pay you $5,000 to make a post that goes against the Make America Healthy Again stuff in order to try and improve our position, in sales or whatever," I would publish every single piece of communication they sent to me and laugh at it. It's kind of what, Riley Gaines did the right thing. And we respect Riley Gaines, and I'm glad that it's proven to be the case, to be somebody who stands for principles and stands up for, what she believes is the right thing. And she apparently was approached. The thing I want to know is, why weren't we approached? Come on, guys. Just give us the opportunity to be paid. I mean,
have you ever tried the crisp, cool taste of Coca-Cola?
Mountain Dew Code Red?
Yeah.
Actually, we have been paid one time to show for a beverage company before, coffee company.
Jolt Cola.
It was apparently, yeah. Anyway, never mind.
There's a difference between advertising, though, where people know, like on a podcast like this, where you are going to introduce products. There are people that want to get out there. They want to reach a particular audience. That's 100% fine. It's transparent. Everybody knows that they're doing it. It's 100% different, like you said, Dan, where you have a guy that works for the Florida's Voice news outlet, and he does breaking news, and then all of a sudden he's shilling for a political position that is paid for by lobbyists. And it's like, that leaves like a really distrustful... Yeah.
Big soda, big food, big pharma, big oil. Like those are the 4 bad ones, right? Like that's what you don't want to get caught shilling for either. It's like it's so obvious. They're like, we need to be careful with Make America Healthy Again. It's like, no, you don't. Make America Healthy Again, that movement's maybe not going far enough, fast enough. We need to stop poisoning our children and our adults. Statistically
speaking, soda, I mean, you look at cigarettes and soda, the obesity epidemic in America right now is up there with the lung cancer epidemic with cigarettes. So it is incredibly damaging, and it ruins credibility. That's the problem, guys. You sold your credibility. You didn't just sell your influence. You sold your credibility, and it's hard to get that back. Like, it's really hard to get that back because people won't trust the things you post going forward, and it's a bummer. It's easy to say I wouldn't do it, blah 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 blah, but I don't think I would ever be in a position of influence where I would be comfortable selling out, because that's what it is, for a couple of bucks. $1,000 a post doesn't seem like that much to me. It really doesn't. To shill for something so giant, I would ask for a lot more money before I sold my soul to the soda companies. They have a lot of money. Sense.
Hey guys, should we go to the Marlboro Lights commercial now, or should we do that at the end?
The last story of the week, which I will just touch on very briefly, I'll actually encourage you guys to visit notthebee.com and go to the article that was written about this. But we had a surprise block that I noticed this week on Twitter. We were actually blocked by, drumroll please, William Shatner.
Oh,
Captain Kirk. Captain. I was sad. I saw that he had blocked us. I actually hadn't noticed. Apparently, he blocked us 2 years ago in 2023 for a very specific reason. And you can see he actually, in his tweet, where a fan asked, "Why did you block Not the Bee?" We had posted a tweet that said, "First Luke Skywalker, and now this," and it shows a picture of @William Shatner has blocked you. I was kind of shocked by it. I didn't really know why. Sometimes people block people. They just don't like to see him in the feed, whatever. But it's just one of those things. It's like we've lost Luke Skywalker, and now we've also lost Captain Kirk. And
I thought it was because last week Joel picked Luke Skywalker over Captain
that might have been. He might have heard our podcast.
That was it.
But he actually said that he read or at least saw or knew of an article published by our site about 2 years ago by Peter Heck. The article itself is great, and we can put a link to it in the description for the video. But you can also just go to our site and search for William Shatner, and you'll see both articles, this new one and the one that was originally written by Peter Heck, which kind of says that, the agnostic, atheistic kind of spirituality, I put in quotation marks, that William Shatner espouses to, is just empty and meaningless. And he kind of discovered this when he went up, I guess, on the Blue Origin flight. And I think that was the response. It was a response to that Peter Heck wrote that article. But William Shatner blocked us, and he said it was because of that article that Peter Heck wrote. So I encourage all of our listeners to go read what Peter Heck wrote and then read the summary of that. It's a pretty interesting story. I think that William Shatner is searching for truth still. He's quite older now. Is he over 90?
He's in his 90s. Yeah.
He was 90 when he went up in 2021 with Blue Origin.
Yeah. So he's 92 now, 93, and he's searching for truth. And I hope he finds it. The Peter Heck article was written specifically for him. It's crazy that that's the reason that he blocked us. But some people just can't see through things like that. They take any criticism and they just get rid of it.
I also encourage all of our listeners to go watch the first season of TJ Hooker. Don't do it.
What?
What is that?
I'm older than you guys. That was the cop show that William Shatner was in the mid-'80s. Terrible.
Oh, okay. I didn't even know that.
I didn't even know that it was a thing. But now I'm looking at pictures. Oh, wow, there he is. He's a cop.
All right, B, you got any questions for us this week?
Yes, I do. I think what I'm going to do from now on is always start with Robin, because I'm a gentleman.
Thank you.
If you could assign one celebrity to be president for 1 year, who would it be?
For 1 year?
Yes.
It's an interesting term length.
It is an interesting. I think of a day, maybe one celebrity for 1 year. She's dead, but I love Betty White. That'd be fun. Who's another? I was going to say Jessica Walters, but she's gone too. I like the older ladies. They seem to have a little more sense to them.
Anyone who's alive?
Oh gosh, no, they're all terrible. They're all just
Linda Hamilton.
Linda Hamilton.
So there it is.
I don't know anything about
2.
her politics, though. She probably has pretty left-leaning politics, but
She's got girl boss written all over her.
I do love Linda Hamilton. Sorry, my answer isn't very exciting. The dead Betty White.
Okay, I like it. All right, in that vein, Dan, if you had to pick the next president of the United States and your only choices were Elizabeth Warren or AOC, who would you choose?
It's so bad. It's so bad. I have to think about who would be less effective, and I think that Elizabeth Warren would be less effective because everybody hates Elizabeth Warren. Somehow she has support in Massachusetts. I don't really know how, but
there's a lot of older white ladies with short haircuts.
I think AOC is actually more dangerous than the right gives her credit for. Even though she's a complete moron, everybody who votes for her is a complete moron, so they don't realize she's a complete moron, and they would follow what she says blindly.
I hear she farts a lot too.
She's kind of like she speaks to people the way that JD Vance speaks to people, and that's effective. She speaks to people.
She's
more
charismatic.
Yeah, she's charismatic, but she also seems real. The way she sits in her apartment and does her little TikToks or whatever. People like that. I think Elizabeth Warren would just be screaming in a room by herself and nobody would be listening. And that would be fine with me is this just for a year too?
No, this is for the full 4-year term.
I couldn't do it for 4 years. Oh, that'd be horrible. I would choose her though, because she'd be less effective.
Okay, here's this. I'm following the theme, Joel.
Oh no.
You ready? Yep. You're always scared of my questions. I love it. If you had to swap places with the world leader for a month, who would it be and why?
Like, I'd have to swap places. It would be Xi Jinping so that I could destroy communism from the inside out.
Good answer.
I'd get all of China's trade secrets. I would abolish communism, destroy the one-party rule, and give China back to the people. I don't know. I'd bring a little bit of, American Constitution, arm them all with AR-15s.
What would you do with Taiwan?
Let it be free, because it's not part of China. We just probably got censored off of YouTube since they love China.
All right, I'm going to go serious here, and I'm going to open this up to the group, and this is a big question. Any thoughts on how to fix the immigration crisis?
I think we did it.
Trump is doing it.
Yeah, I think we just shut. That's all. We just shut the border. We just enforced our borders.
I mean, the big problem is I think that we've really done a good job of stopping new people from coming in. The problem is just the leftist judges that are stopping us from shipping them out, and that's a big problem. The judicial's overreaching really bad, and I think that I'm not an insane person who's like, oh, impeach every single judge who makes a ruling that you don't like. It gets really dangerous really fast when you just simply start firing people because they're not doing what you want politically. But at the same time, the fact that judges even have the right to try to tell the commander-in-chief to turn military planes around and bring them back to the United States, that they even think that they have that right, it doesn't make any sense why. I guess I don't understand the correlation fully between the judicial and the executive when it comes to certain things. The executive branch has the authority to do things in the Constitution, and the judicial checks it at certain times, but not others. Like, why was there a judge even able to make a ruling on that? It doesn't even make any sense. Like, who brought that to the judge? I don't understand where the authority comes from. So that's, I think, the biggest problem right now is the clarification, and it's the same type of a thing in the government where you enact emergency powers and you do all these things that are illegal, and then later it gets overridden by the Supreme Court or whatever, and you find out it was illegal, and you're like, oh, sorry for doing all this COVID nonsense. It's the same thing here. These judges are definitely overreaching their judicial powers, but it doesn't matter because in the short term you can't just go against a judge's order until it gets to a higher court that strikes it down, which unfortunately in DC just yesterday, they didn't approve the overturning of that decision to not allow those planes to leave the United States.
Well, and the reasoning is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, the reasoning is that, we might accidentally deport somebody who isn't part of the gang. It's like, okay, but are we deporting somebody who actually is a citizen here? If not, deportation doesn't really matter. Like,
Right.
yes, the Trump admin could come out and say, all right, once we've deported them and we've processed them, we've determined this person isn't actually a violent criminal rapist murderer associated with this gang. So we are going to just send them home to their country and tell them never return, or there might be more severe consequences. But if they're here illegally, they're here illegally. They're already criminals. Deporting them is not, I mean, that's just called enforcing the border laws. But the judges are saying, oh, this is not, it's technically not an act of war. And this Criminal Alien Act of 1798, it has to be an actual act of war. And the thing that I note is, okay, there are articles that are out there that show and talk about how Venezuela is emptying its prisons. It's doing that because it can't really feed them. The nation is in tatters. Poverty's out of control because of communism. It can't really control the gangs. So it has every incentive to empty the prisons and encourage them to go up to America, which is its sworn enemy, and cause havoc up here. And they don't care if the criminals do that. They just don't want to feed them. So these judges, their reasoning, it falls so flat. And what we're seeing is really the effect of what has happened with institutional capture. This is the reason why leftists have pushed for so hard to capture these institutions. And the judiciary is another mechanism that they have to actually enforce one-party rule. If the president can't even do things that the president has the absolute authority to do, like deport criminal aliens, then what can the president do? And so the people that are out there saying Trump should just ignore the court's orders, there is a little bit of legitimacy to go full Andrew Jackson here. As bad as that is, you want there to be healthy checks and balances. You want people to follow due process. You don't want to create chaos and give one person too much power. But in this situation, it's like, what do you do if an activist judge, it comes out, and a lot of these judges, they're all like white women, white liberal women. If they're just coming out and they're saying, hey, we need to actually keep the convicted gangsters who are raping and murdering people in the country, what do you do in that situation? It's a tough spot for Trump to be in, which is probably why he's a good person for it, because he tends to just ignore.
I do think, real quick, I have a very hard, strong libertarian streak in me. And as I've been following the news this week, we absolutely have to be following due process. I know there is a temptation to want to suspend maybe lackadaisically some of these things and deport them and then check later. But I am a little concerned, if nothing else, that it sets a precedent for whatever administration comes in next to be able to do similar things, maybe in a different context with people, gun owners, or people who don't want to trans their kids, or whatever it is. I think the rule of law has to uphold it. It has to be strong. We have to stand by it. And I think I would much rather keep, and this is going to be a very unpopular thing, but I'm going to say it, I would much rather have 100 violent criminals free in the U.S. than deport an innocent person. I think as soon as we move over into the territory of shoot them all and let God.
I think this is the first time that I've disagreed with you, Robin.
This is the problem with libertarians, right here.
This is
you want to keep you want 100 violent criminals in our country.
I don't want that, but I want the rule of law to be followed. I do not want that, but
wanting perfection. But that's the kind of thinking that gets us into the types of bad situations that we're in. It's the type of this type of appeasing of the trans community.
And it's why libertarians never win elections.
That like, oh, well, if one person out of the 350 million people in the country feels bad, then we have
I'm talking about following the rule of law. I'm saying if we deport an innocent person without due process,
is the question. And that's my thing that I was saying is I don't understand why, and I can research it. I guess people can tell me in the comments. Why was this even on a judge's desk? How did it get there? Did somebody sue somebody? How did it become a court issue?
Depends on which case you're looking at. There's a few different instances of
the specific one where he said the planes need to turn back around. Like, why is a judge even thinking about that?
Oh, and let me say one thing. Why are we assuming that all of those people that were on that plane weren't already confirmed to be criminals.
Because it was shown that some of them, and I'm reading between the tea leaves here, but I'm not sure every one of them had. They're supposed to have court dates, which are very sluggish. But if we're just going to willy nilly and start rounding people up,
they
and
were all
deporting,
here illegally, though, so they all committed a crime. They were all
if there was a
Amen.
U.S. citizen that was accidentally shipped off. So let's say that they accidentally
that's
shipped
a
me
little
off.
bit different.
That's
and it
what
would
I'm
be
talking
like
about.
Fun
But they
with Dick
didn't
and
do that.
Jane.
or even someone on a green card that's here legally with a green card. If they come in illegally, they should be deported. But they should also, if they're here illegally, we have to be able to prove they're here illegally, and that requires some sort of court action.
As far as I know, every single person who was on that plane may not have been a part of that specific gang that they said they were all a part of, but they were all here illegally. They weren't. It wasn't a U.S. citizen being shipped to Guantanamo Bay.
No, but some of them could have had green cards, or some of them could have been here on work visas or student visas or whatever. I don't know. My point is, suspending habeas corpus and suspending due process sounds great when we're rounding up the violent gangsters, but that can be a slippery slope if we're willing to do that for our administration. When the next administration comes in,
I agree with you on that.
They can say, well, I would rather 1 million kids get trans than one kid who, whatever it is. Like, we can start going to this whole, we don't need due process for this group or this group or this group. We just need to round them up and get them out. But everybody has an ideological bent. I don't want illegal immigrants in here, and I definitely don't want violent criminals in my neighborhoods. I have 5 kids. But I'm also a very, very strong believer in due process.
I agree with you on that. I think that we need to follow due process. I do think it sets a dangerous precedent, but the Democrats have proven that they don't really care about due process most of the time that they're in control. Look at Governor Whitmer up in Michigan, and they don't care about what the laws say. They'll just do things and then ask for forgiveness later. I'm not saying that's an excuse for the right to do it either, but it is dangerous that one side is more prone to do that and then call the other side fascist and authoritarian. And also, again, what it comes down to me is, why is this on a judge's desk? That's the question. Why does a judge have any right whatsoever to review anything that is going against the constitutional rights of the executive branch? And with that said, I think that's probably it for this week. I don't feel good about disagreeing with Robin. I'm going to privately apologize to her.
No, you could. I'm not a daisy. I'm not a shrinking flower.
I'm enjoying it because it's going to make good editing. Thank you, guys.
You can disagree with me all you want. I'm not offended.
Just going to bring my sword in here one more time.
I'll go find
ninja
mine.
swords.
Keir Starmer.
All right. We will see you guys next week. Thank you for joining.